Hey guys, I'm April and I make junk journal style craft kits that tell a story. Today I have a free project for you, the Holiday Mail Mishap. This project follows the story of Renee and Woolsey, who both work for the Whiskerwind Post, a post office run by women who can talk to a special breed of flying cats. In this story, a griffin transporting mail in from distant villages dropped packages over the town of Kindred Hollow. As we craft this project, we're going to follow along with Renee and Woolsey as they head out into the town to retrieve the missing mail. This free project went out today to members of my email list as part of my Black Friday celebration. If you're not on the email list and would like to join us, then you can sign up using the link in the description down below and have this kit sent to you immediately. In addition to this free kit, I'm also running a 50% off sale in my Etsy shop where you can find more kits like this, as well as junk journal kits, both with and without stories. The sale runs November 28th, 2025 to December 4th, 2025, and a link to my shop is in the description down below. The Holiday Mail Mishap is a 9-part project that you can craft at your own pace, and just like my previous box kits, I am with you every step of the way. You can easily skip to exactly the part of the project you want to work on by using the timestamps in this video. Now let's go over the supplies that you're going to need while crafting this box kit. For paper, I use 110-pound cardstock, that's 199 GSM. For paper, I use 32-pound paper, which is 120 GSM. You'll need scissors to cut everything out, a liquid glue with a fine point. I like Vegan Fabri-Tac. You can use an optional glue stick. I like Oohoo as my glue stick. However, in this tutorial, you'll see me use exclusively my liquid glue. It's just a little faster and a little neater for me to use than the glue stick. I recommend having a bone folder to sharpen all your creases and smooth out your glue. And then you're going to need a bookbinding kit or alternative. So you'll need a pokey tool to poke holes with. I have wax thread for my bookbinding kit, but you can substitute some kind of string or embroidery floss, nothing with too much stretch. And then you'll also need a large needle. The eye of the needle needs to be big enough to hold your thread. So you'll need that to sew in the pages on our journal. I also highly recommend a scoreboard for starting your creases. I use this all the time, so definitely recommend this tool if you have it. I'll be using vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything that I cut out, but this is optional and you can just do this if you want to. Printing these files is straightforward. Each page contains instructions for the paper type. It'll say paper or cardstock. If you need to print something on the reverse side. So you can see on this page, it says print backer 1 on reverse. That way you know which paper to print on the back side of this. And it also contains what part of this project it's for. And this one is for part 4. This one's for part 7. This one here is part 1, the box lid. So everything is labeled, and I will go over all of this information at the top of the pages at the beginning of each part of this kit. I recommend watching the introduction for each project, for each part, before printing and cutting out the pages that you will be using. I also have a quick note about cutting machines. PNGs are provided, but please be sure to use a machine or a method that allows you to print and cut at full page size. Cricut Print and Cut shrinks all of the pieces and can cause things to scale differently. I recommend using a full page workaround if printing and cutting with Cricut. If you're cutting by hand and are nervous about some of the more detailed pieces, then check out my fussy cutting tutorial where I go over the basics and work you up to creating more complex double-sided fussy cuts. So I think that's all the information you need. So let's get started crafting the Holiday Mail Mishap. Let's begin by creating a box to hold all of our holiday goodies. There's enough room in the box to hold the journal and all 5 packages, plus a little room to spare just in case you want to add some extra embellishments. This is the largest part of our project. There are 11 pages, all of them printed on cardstock. Nothing is printed on the reverse side. Everything is going to be blank. And if you're not sure which pages are for this project, then just look at the tops and it's everything labeled part 1. I have everything cut out and inked already, and I'm just going to start with the box bottom. So there are 4 panels, 4 sides marked box bottom. Those are the 2 with the tape like this. and everything's sticking together, these longer sides here. And the bottom also has a matching snowflake print, just like what's printed on those panels, and then a larger bottom panel with that little piece of tape on it. I'm going to put all of the lid pieces off to the side. So let's start building the bottom. The first thing we need to do is all of our creases on these side panels. So for the longer ones, there's just 2 creases, one between the snowflake and this kind of craft paper print. So that's going to run right along there. And then our second crease is below the craft paper, the brown paper, and it's going to be above this line. This is not a fold line. This is just a little extra print, so when we put the bottom on the box, you don't have to worry about white showing around the edges. So we've got a crease here and here. And I like to make sure that everything is going to fold flat. It gives me a much more square and even box. So I fold the tab first, and then I fold this panel in and make sure that everything kind of lays flat. You'll also notice I have some distress ink in here. This white edge might show whenever the box is put together. So I like to put a little ink in there just to kind of hide it whenever it's finished. I've done this on the creases for anything that has a tab. A tab has an angled side on it like this. So you don't have to do it for the straight panels, but I recommend it for these tab panels. Our short sides are similar, but a little more complicated. So we have the same fold between the snowflake and the brown paper, the same fold between the brown paper and our tab. And again, we're not creasing along here. This is just a little extra print. And then we have 2 tabs on the side. And then flipping that over, you can ink along all the tabs. I got a little overzealous and went across here as well. You really only need to do the 2 small tabs and then across with this bottom tab here with the print on it. So once you have these creased, inked, and ready to go, we're going to glue down these snowflake panels just on the short sides. So I've got my Beacon Fabri-Tac. You can use whatever glue you like. And I'm just going to fold this down and glue it in place. So I'm going to put some glue all around the edges, and then I'm going to do a scribble on the inside. I recommend smearing your glue out a little bit. And then I'm going to use my bone folder to smooth everything down and make sure that my edge is nice and sharp. And then let's repeat that for the second one. Right around those edges. I've got a good scribble in there, and I'll smooth it down. So now let's go ahead and lay out these panels for the bottom. This is going to be the inside bottom of the box. We're going to start with that. This is the snowflake print. So I'm going to place that down, and we're going to arrange our panels around the outside. So we've got the left side of the long side over here, the right side, and then the top and bottom. Now, these are interchangeable for this project, but I keep them labeled this way anyway. A lot of people like that. They know where to put everything. And then when you flip it over, you know where the top is, just in case the outside panel is directional. So I just keep that as a standard. And we're going to start gluing these tabs here, underneath of our bottom panel. So I'm going to start with the left long side. And I'm going to put a good coating of glue on that tab only. And then I'm going to use my bottom panel. It doesn't matter what direction you put this in. And I'm just going to place that on top of the tab. I'm going to line it up with the left and right. I'm going to fold over and then fold over again and give that a press. And just give that a smooth with my bone folder. And folding everything over, just make sure that things are nice and square and that the spacing is correct for the bottom as well as the top so that the lid will go onto the box properly. I'm going to repeat that on the other long side. We've got glue all along the tab. Just an outline and then a scribble in the middle. I'm going to place that panel right on top. Line up the sides left and right. Fold, and then fold over. I have my bottom side, and that's just going to pop right underneath here at the bottom. I'm seeing my box just got a little off. There we go. Slid on me a little. Glue right on that tab. Panel on top. I'm going to turn this so I can see better, make sure we're lined up left and right, and then fold over. And you want to make sure that these are as tight as possible. My glue is a little slippery today, so I'm going to make sure I push that in and make things as tight as they can be. And then flipping one more time, we have the top side. Glue on my tab. And you can move these longer panels out of the way if they're obscuring your view. You can just flip those up out of the way, centering it up. And that's my final side. Now we're ready to assemble the corners on the bottom of our box. So we've got two panels, the inside and the outside. I'm going to put glue on the outside panel around the edges, a good scribble in the middle. And then the inside panel, I'm going to run the glue up each side. We want to make sure there's glue on either side of these tabs. I'm going to press my tabs and just double check that they're at a 90-degree angle with a nice sharp crease. And then up and flip over, pressing those tabs inside. Those tabs are sandwiched right in the middle between those two layers. I'm going to gently press that into place, lift it up. I'm going to check my corners and then give it a more firm press to keep it nice and sharp at the corners. And then stand it up. And I'm going to use my bone folder to press everything down and make it nice and sharp. And then I always check one more time because sometimes things want to slip out. And turn and repeat for the other side. So the outside panel gets that glue around the edge. The glue up each side. I'm going to press these into 90 degrees, up and over. Just a light press, and then check those corners and push them into place. Same on this side. And then I'll give that one final crease and press with my bone folder. So now we're ready to put the back on the bottom of the box. The bottom on the bottom of the box, and that is this panel here. It does not matter which direction this goes in. It can go either way. I rather like it this way. I like that better. So I'm going to go with that. And I am going to put my glue right around the edges. I want to make sure this glue goes all the way to the edges, as close as I can get. And then a scribble in the middle. Again, a nice thin, even coating of glue will serve you best. And then I'm just going to place that on top of the box and move it around until it is centered up. And then flip and use my bone folder or your fingers to rub from the opposite side and smooth that down. So there's the bottom of our box complete, and we're ready to work on the lid. So this is going to go exactly the same way. So I'm going to put the outside cover of the box lid to the side, and we're going to be working with this pattern here. We have two short sides, two long sides. Our long sides are creased between this holly pattern and the outside panel, as well as the outside panel and then this tab, not creasing along here where we have that little extra print. So both of those are done that way. And then our short sides between the holly and the outside and our tab, and then those two tabs here. Again, distressing along the tabs if you want, that is optional. And then I'm going to do some glue on these short sides. We're just going to fold that holly pattern over and glue it down. So I'm just doing around the edges and that scribble in the middle. Give it a press. Repeat that for the second one. Press that into place as well. Now I've got my inside of the lid panel, and we're just going to arrange these like we did the bottom. So we've got the top, there's my top, bottom, left and right. I'm going to start with these long sides, and we're gluing again on the tabs. Those are the ones with the print and the angled sides on them. So glue on my tab for the left-hand side. Just going to center this up, fold, and fold. Again, it's important to fold all the way flat like this to make sure everything has a good fit so that the lid will go onto the box. This is just kind of a check to make sure nothing gets too loose or too tight. Now we've got the right-hand side. Glue on the tab. And centering that up left and right. And folding over and press. Let's do the top side now. There we go. Right around the edge of the tab. Make sure this is centered up with the bottom panel. Fold over. And our final side. Same thing. Nice amount of glue on the tab. Line up. And fold over. Now I'm going to turn and work on one of the long sides. Let's get nice, sharp 90-degree angles on these corners. I'm just going to go ahead and do all of them at once. Standing up. Glue on the outside panel. And then glue up the sides of that inside panel that's going to flip over. Those edges are up and over with the side. Light press, and then check my corners. Use my bone folder to firm up the crease. And now we have the final side. Same thing. Right around the edges here. Fill in the middle. Up both sides of that inside panel. 90 degrees on my tabs and up and over. Check those corners. sharper and nicer your corners are, the nicer your box will look. And now we're ready to put the top on the box. So I'm just going to flip this so I see top side. And then we're going to glue this panel right on the outside. So again, glue around all of the edges. And then glue in the middle. And again, making sure you get glue all the way to the edges and the corners is going to make this last longer because those are the areas that might catch when this is being moved around. So I do recommend smoothing your glue out or using a glue stick. If you use enough glue stick, you should be able to slide this around a little bit. And I'm just going to center that up, flip over, and give that a press from the other side. And now we have the moment of truth. I'm going to put the lid on the bottom of the box. And there we go. There is our little package box for the holiday mail mishap. Now we need a journal to hold our story. This journal belongs to Renee Winderly, one of the women who run Whisker Wind Post. And this is where she documents her journey around Kindred Hollow with her winged cat companion, Woolsey. Part 2 has 4 pages. 3 of them are on cardstock, 1 is on paper. There are no backer papers, but you are going to need to print that 1 paper page 3 times. So this is the page with this holly berry pattern on it. You'll need 3 of those to make the pages for our journal, and I'll show you what to do with these in a moment. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then just look for the ones marked Part 2. You're also going to need a bookbinding kit or something similar. That's going to be a needle, thread. I'm using wax thread, but you can use any substitute you like, as well as something to poke holes with. I'm going to use this little pokey tool. And you might also find some Scotch tape or washi tape, something like that, handy for part of this project, but it's not mandatory. So I have all of my pieces cut out for this project, and we're going to start with the pages. So we have a sheet that looks like this, and we're just going to fold it in half tall ways, like so. There'll be a line down the middle. There is also a line across the center. It is there. It's not super dark, but we're just going to fold in half and then grab your glue. You can use a glue stick if you want. And glue this back to back. That way we have a nice sturdy double-sided page. And you want to make a thin coat of glue if you can. Get that glue all the way to the edges and corners and smooth it out. So repeat this with all 3 pages so that you have 3 pages that look like this, and then put them to the side to dry while we work on the cover for the journal. For the cover, we have this piece here. We're going to have creases that run down either side of the spine like this. And then we have all of these tabs to fold in on the edges. And those are going to look like this. Now I have put a little distress ink in each corner, as well as where these little notches are on the spine. So it's just in case a little tiny bit of that white cardstock shows through. That'll cover it up and hide it, but we are covering up with a spine and some inside covers, so you won't see very much of that. So totally optional. But you want to get all of these tabs folded over nice and sharp. And then we're going to go ahead and glue those down. So I'm going to grab my liquid glue and just begin coating each tab with some glue. I'm going to move some of these items in here. Sometimes the white gets really dark or really light with my camera, so I'm going to move some other things into camera and get that glue on all the tabs. I'm going to put my glue on and then press them down. This glue seems to work a little better if it has a moment to set up. Otherwise, it wants to pop up on me. So all of these tabs all the way around. And then back where I started. And start giving those a good firm press. And this is going to give us nice clean edges on our journal, as well as a little more stability since we are building this entirely out of cardstock. There, my tabs are down, and now I'm going to press, and I'm going to make sure that the corners are down nice and tight. All the edges are nice and sharp. And make sure everything's glued down well. There we go. So now I have everything down, and I'm going to flip that over. Let's go ahead and work on the outside of the cover. It's a little easier to do whenever it is flat versus when it's all folded up. So we want holiday memories to be in this direction, kind of turned that way. And there are two panels for the cover. One has kind of a collage of stamping and the other one is more linear in a straight row. We're going to glue these on the center of the front and back covers. So the right-hand side gets the collage. And again, gluing this down all the way to the edges, all the way to those corners is going to help it hold up better. And center this right up on the panel. And same thing for the left-hand side. Glue around the edges and in the middle. Now center that up as best I can and smooth it down. Finally, for the outside, we have a journal label and a property of Renee Winderly. Those are going to go right on the front so we know whose journal it is. Again, glue these down really well so they don't catch on anything. And I'm just going to place my journal label centered on the panel. Right under, there's a little gold line there. I'm going to put it right under there. And then the bottom label goes right across here. And you can play with the placement until you get them how you like them. That is how mine looks. And now we can sit this to the side to dry. And we're going to bring back our 3 sets of pages. So you want to make sure these are good and dry before you try to fold them. If they're still kind of wet, they may not fold very sharply, but we're going to fold these right in half along that line in the middle. So you're going to repeat that for all 3. If you feel like they're a little stiff, then you can fold them one way and then the other just once. These will break in a little bit as we're working on our book as well. So don't worry if they seem just a little bit stiff. And then we're going to poke holes in these. There are pre-printed holes, and I'm going to try to zoom in. It is white with a little black border. There are 3, 1, 2, and 3. There it is. However, if you can't see those, or those are just hard for you to see at all, I've provided this little template. You only need this template if you're having trouble seeing those punches. And that is just going to nestle right down in there, and then you can punch your holes through that template. You'll have nice black dots to poke through. So this is just a visual aid tool if you need it. I'm going to grab my little punch and finding each of those little holes, all those little dots, I'm just going to punch through right there. And I'm going to make sure I go through far enough. If you go too shallow and just get the tip of your punch, sometimes your needle won't fit through. So here is my second hole and my third. And then you're just going to repeat that for the other 2 pages. All right, so I have finished all 3 of mine. And now I'm going to grab this little spine piece and I'm going to poke my holes through all 9 dots that are on this spine piece. And you might want to get something to stab down into instead of, say, your finger or your nice work desk or table. I'm just going to grab this piece of paper towel, I'll fold it up, and then I can just poke straight down through there. I normally have a little stack of cardboard, but I cleaned up my desk and I put it somewhere safe. And I don't know where that is. It's just 3 pieces of cardboard shipping box glued together, and I use it for this, and it's gone. It's somewhere here. It's nearby. I can sense it. So there we go. We have our holes punched. We have the holes punched in our 3 pages. And now we're going to sew these in. This is going to make kind of a hidden spine. All the stitching will be hidden back here. So I'm going to get my wax thread. You can use whatever string you happen to be using. And I'm going to measure out 3 lengths, a length being how tall my journal is. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to give that a trim. Now I've got my thread in my needle. And we're going to sew our pages in. We're going to start with the spine. And I'm going to come up through the middle hole on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to grab one of my pages and go up through the middle hole on the page. Leave a tail on the back long enough for you to tie a knot. I'm going to go down through the top hole of the page as well as the top hole of the left-hand row of this spine piece. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. Keep my little tail out of the way. I'm going to go through the bottom hole on that left-hand side, as well as the bottom hole of my page. I'm going to flip to the inside. I'm going to pull this tail to the side out of the way, and I'm going to go back down through that middle hole. Make sure your needle does not go through your thread, or else you're not going to be able to tie a knot. Now I have both my tails on the outside. I'm going to put them on either side of this long string and then tie a knot right over left, left over right, or in my case, I see to go left over right, right over the left. I believe it's the same knot. And then I'm just going to rub that. This is a wax thread, so rubbing it makes it stick to itself. I'm going to cut the tails so they'll be out of the way. And then I'm going to tape these down at the end. But if they get in your way while you're stitching in the other 2, then you can tape it down now and then add more tape to tape down the others. So here is my first page in. And you're just going to repeat that for the other 2 pages in the other 2 sets of holes. So one in the middle set and one in the right set. All right, so I have all of my pages in. It looks like this. There we go. You can see they're all nice and neat. I've got all my strings on the back, and I'm going to open this up flat and use a piece of tape to tape these down in the center. We just don't want these little tails getting in the way, and I'm going to go up. I'm not going to get tape on the sides here. Folded that piece over, so let me try again. So I'm just going to tape up along the strings like this, and that's just going to keep them out of the way. This isn't meant to be a permanent hold. It's just to keep them from getting in the way for the next part. So we have our journal cover. It's had time to dry. And we have this piece here. We're going to put glue on the tab here and the tab here. And then it's going to nestle right down in to our book. We are not gluing where the strings are. We want to let that have a little movement. It'll probably curve up a little bit. That is totally normal. So, but you're going to want that to get in right in there. So if it's not fitting properly, adjust your folds on this piece here. until it nestles right in there without a bunch of fuss. Then I'm going to grab my glue and glue along both of these tabs. And there's not really an up and down on this, so don't worry about it being upside down unless you've had your pages put in a certain way. And you can take a look at that and see what you prefer for the top and bottom. But I'm just going to sit this here. I'm going to line it up at the top and bottom, and then I'm going to give that, I'm going to fold it, and this is just to make sure that it is in the correct place. But then I'm going to open that back up again. You don't want to let it dry closed because then it's going to give you some trouble later whenever you're trying to open the book. It's going to do bad things. So take a look at your pages, open them up, make sure that they are laying inside fairly straight. There we go. And you can see this does curve up just a little bit. That's what we want it to do. And now we can put the inside covers on. There's one with kind of this postage stamp border and one with these pieces of tape. We're going to put the tape one inside of the front cover. So double check and make sure we have the front of the journal. Glue around those edges. And pop that into place. It should cover most everything. With just a little border around the edge. And then I'm just going to give this a fold to make sure I haven't gotten into the crease here. And then on the back, that's going to go in right there. So same thing, little glue around the edges. And put that back cover inside. Give that a fold. And now we have our little adorable mini journal that we can start adding our story to. It's time for our first journal entry. It's the Festival of Warm Wishes, and Whiskerwood Post is in charge of delivering packages to the residents of Kindred Hollow. Unfortunately, something has happened to today's delivery from the surrounding towns. Part 3 has 3 pages, all of which are on cardstock, and there are no backer pages. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, just look for the ones marked Part 3. So I have all of my pieces cut out and inked, including all of the portraits. You get to decide what Woolsey and Renee look like. I'm going to go with these 2 portraits. I've also cut out all of the rest, but you only need to cut out the 2 that you need. So the rest of these can be used for other crafting projects or anything you like. I'm going to put my chosen portraits off to the side for now because the faces sometimes mess with my camera a bit. And let's open our journal to the front inside cover. And the first thing we're going to do is insert this pocket with the griffin on it. There are 3 tabs on this pocket, 1, 2, 3. They're all going to fold to the back. And I'm going to give those a good crease. I like to do these short sides first on this one, and then do the long side over the top. That keeps the card from catching when you slide it in and out. If it's underneath, it can catch easier in this area. So I'm going to turn it so that my fingers aren't in the way, and I'm going to put glue on all 3 of these tabs. And then give it a little turn. And this pocket is just going to go on the right hand side of the inside cover. There we go. You don't have to go all the way to the edge. You can go most of the way. I'm going to leave just a little space there and then center it top and bottom. There we go. So now there is a pocket. We'll be able to tuck something inside. I'm going to set this to the side to dry. And let's work on these couple of panels. So we have a flip panel. This one is going to get folded along this line. I'm going to do that first. Then I'm going to fold the tab up and make sure there's no buckling or anything popping up here. Give that a good crease. And then glue these two panels back to back. I did put some distress ink in the crease where the tab is so that you won't have that white paper showing when you flip this little flip open. That is optional, but it is along that line. And then I'm going to grab this part, this journal entry card. I'm going to flip it over, make sure we're right side up, right side up. And I'm just going to place that front to front, fold this over, and glue the tab to the back. So now we have this card about Renee Winderly, and it flips open and reveals both of the journal entries inside. And I'm just going to check and make sure that everything is straight and as snug as it can be. And then I'm going to open this up and grab the portrait that I've chosen for Renee, and I'm just going to glue that right over the box on this panel. So I'm going to put some glue on the edges, a little bit in the middle, and put that in place. I'm going to place that to the side to dry for a moment, and let's work on this card. This one just folds right in half and then glues back to back to make a double-sided card. Quick scribble of glue. And then we have this card, and we have a place for Woolsey's portrait. I've gone with the white cat. You can choose any cat that you like. And I'm just going to glue that right into the box. And let's bring the journal back. I'm going to close this panel, and we're going to glue this blank side down to the page. So make sure that you know where the edge of your page is, because these kind of spread out just a little bit because there's nothing in there yet. So we're going to glue that right down to the page. I'm going to put glue around the edges. And center this up. Open that and give it a rub. And then our card with Woolsey on it is going to tuck right in here. And you can put it either up this way or flipped this way. Make sure your pocket is dry before you tuck the card inside. And at this point, you can go ahead and read this if you'd like to read along as you craft the project. This is our first journal entry from Renee. Some people like to wait until the end and read it all at once. I think it's more fun to read it as you assemble it. So you decide what you prefer. And that is it for part 3. Renee and Woolsey have set out to find the missing packages and end up outside of the local bakery. Maybe there's a package around here somewhere. There are 4 pages in this project, 3 on cardstock, 1 is on paper. The paper page is the one with the letter and the portrait of the man with his fox friend. Backer paper 1 needs to be printed on the reverse of the page with the package on it. So it'll have that holly print on the back. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the ones marked Part 4. So let's start off by building the journal pieces, and then we'll work on the package. So I have a letter, the mittens, this little bag of bristles bedding mix, and the box. These are all going to the side. And we're going to work on these pieces here. So a quick one for this card. This is just going to fold in half and then glue together. So we've got that just around the edge and in the middle. Now we have a double-sided card. And then I'm going to grab this long panel here. We're going to crease here and here. So the first thing we'll do is fold this in half and then fold the tab over and make sure everything is lying flat. Again, I've got some distress ink in this tab crease, so when we flip this up, there's not a white streak showing there. But before we can glue this shut, we're going to need to add this belly band. There's 2 tabs to fold over on this, one on each side. Those are going to fold to the back. And yours will be a little neater than mine. I undersized this just a bit. Yours will be perfect. I'm going to expand this for you. I just adjusted my folds so I can continue on assembling the project. And those tabs are just going to hook over either side of this striped panel with the tab at the top. And we want to center that up as best we can because this is going to be a little slide tuck for this card. So fold those tabs over, center it up, go to the back, and put a little glue on each of those tabs. And then press them into place. Then we can go ahead and glue this back panel over. So I'm going to go right around the edges, like so, in the middle, and then flip that up. So now we have made a double-sided flip with this belly band on it. And then this card is going to attach to the card with this wreath on it. But let's go ahead and decorate this first. So this one is going to get the bakery shelves glued on. Get some glue on the back of that. Let's try to get them fairly straight, right in the center of the wreath. And then underneath we have room for a description. And that one is, the windows fog softly from the constant warmth. That is going to glue right along the bottom of that panel. And now we can attach our flip to this panel. You might want to let this dry just a little bit, but once it's ready, just layer them together and hook that tab right over the top. And then I'm going to glue that down. So now we have this flip here. And I'm going to flip this up and let's finish this panel. We've got the portrait of our man, Sam. This is Sam and his companion, Flicker. And below that, we're actually going to put Woolsey's thoughts. I wanted to include Woolsey in the journal. Woolsey can't write, no opposable thumbs, but Woolsey can talk to Renee. So Renee is very thoughtful and writes down Woolsey's thoughts for him. So I'm going to glue our portrait of Sam and Flicker right here. And then Woolsey's thoughts right beneath that. And then let's flip this down, and on top of this belly band, we've got Sam Alder runs Foxfire Bakery with his companion Flicker, and that is going to go right here. There's a lot going on this little flip. Center that up. And then I'm going to put this entire thing off to the side to dry because there's a lot going on there. And let's bring our double-sided card back. And we have one last label. Sam handles the mixing, kneading, and shaping while Flicker quietly moves between the hearths, adding gentle bursts of heat. And that is going to go at the top of the card with Flicker on it in the warm flames. All right. So now we can bring our journal over and we're going to open that up and flip to the next blank page. You should have a string here. We should be in between 2 pages. So just make sure you're on the correct page. And let's start by gluing our journal entry over on the left-hand side. And we're just going to go ahead and glue that directly in. Centered up on the page. And then here on the right hand side, we're going to insert our little flip. So I'm just going to glue the back of this down. On the right, centering that on the page as well. Remember, check your edges, make sure you know where your edges are. And finally, once everything is dry, you can slide this card right down into the tuck. And then we have a flip up with information about the bakery. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and read the journal entry, and we're going to assemble the package that Renee and Woolsey found. So here are all of our pieces, and I'm going to start with the little cutouts here. So we have the little double-sided fussy cut. These are just going to glue back to back so that it has print on both sides. It makes it just a little more special, a little more exciting. If you cut by hand and they're not lining up perfectly, just hide it with distressing. Or you can do the little fussy, I have a fussy cutting video that shows you how I cut out double-sided fussy cuts like this one by hand. So I'll make sure there's a link to that down below if you're not sure how to handle these double-sided fussy cuts. And then the mittens box, we're just going to fold that in half and glue it together. There we go. So we have that. And then our letter, we'll come back to that once we build the box. So here is our box. The box needs to be creased on all the lines. So every single line on here. It is a lot of folding, but it is going to make the cutest little box, I promise. So the first thing we're going to do is glue this panel down to the inside. This is going to make the box sturdier. This is probably a little hard on the eyes and not super easy to see everything. But I am just folding over the front of the box. So that is this panel here. Just going to fold that in with some glue on it. And then stand that up, make sure that everything is correct. If it buckles, kind of pinch it, lay it down, and give it another press. So we've got that piece down. And this is going to be very similar to building our box. So we've got these 4 tabs that fold in. Those are going to be our tabs that go at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to fold this lid back a little to get it out of the way. And then we have our panels that are going to come up and over on both sides. And I'm just going to glue all of this because those tabs take up almost the entire thing. So I'm going to make sure I get a little line of glue up each side and then all over the middle. And then take that over the top. Check those corners so that we have nice boxes. Pinch, 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 and then press that down with my bone folder. And then same thing on the other side. We have these 2 panels here. Glue all over. Up and over. And then check those corners and make sure everything is nice and tight, nice and square. Now we have our little gift box. This little tuck in, all those little flaps will tuck in. And we have our package. So now it's time to fill this package up with goodies. So let's start with the letter. The letter is just going to fold in half and then in half again. We can place that down in there. And then we'll add bristles bedding and the mittens. And then close that up. And that's it. for part 4. Warm and toasty from their visit to the bakery, Renee and Woolsey continue their search. Their next stop is Kindred Crossing, where Marin and her companion Brookstride tend the bridge. There are 4 pages in this project, 3 on cardstock and 1 on paper. The paper page is the one with the letter and the portrait of the woman and her otter friend. Backer paper 2 will need to be printed on the reverse side of the package. That is the red holiday print. And if you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 5. So again, we're going to do our package at the end of this segment. So I'm going to grab, we've got the little piece here, the letter, the chocolates, the apple slices. Those are all going to go off to the side, and we're going to work on the journal panels. So for this one, we are going to need to bring our journal over, and I'm going to flip to the next open pages. We are right here, so you should have the stripe print peeking through here. And we're going to glue down these 2 panels. So we have the journal entry, which is going to go on the left, and this postage frame is going to go on the right. So I'm going to glue those directly down to the pages. Just a quick glue there. And same thing for this one. Now give those a smooth. And we have another pocket here. So this one is going to go right here. So there are 3 tabs. We're going to fold top, bottom, and then the side. So fold those down and give them a good crease. This is similar to our Griffin pocket. And then I'm just going to glue all 3 of those tabs. This is going to go in. The bridge is up. The opening is to the right, and the tabs go to the left. This is caught up just a little bit. I'm going to line it up with that postage background. So we're just getting this little edge of the postal print is sticking out. On this blank area here, we're going to add Woolsey's thoughts. It's going to go right there. Little glue, and put that in place. And now we can move this to the side and work on this tag. So this tag is just going to fold in half. We're going to line up the tabs and then glue it back to back. And let's start with this side. We've got Marin and her otter friend, Brookstride. Their portrait is going to go right here, inside of the wreath area. And then underneath that, we want the label that says Marin Thistle tends Kindred Crossing Bridge. So that label is going to go right under their portrait. And you can kind of adjust things. I'm going to adjust that up just a little bit. And then I'm going to flip this over, and we have Marin Handles Inspections, Repairs, and Upkeep. That label is going to go right at the top of the back side, right above the picture of our package. And then once this tag is dry, there we go. Just slide that inside of the pocket. So now this tab sticks out so you can pull the card in and out. Next, I'm going to put this off to the side and let's build our package. So first we have a couple of items to go inside. Oof, there we go. We have the chocolate box, and the back of that chocolate box will just go on the reverse side. Like so. We're going to make sure the print is right side up. And then same thing with the box of apple slices. This is a square, so the direction should not matter. There we go. We have our little box of apple slices. And we will fold the letter once we get our box made. This box is a little different because of the size of it to fit it on the page. It got a little tricky. Again, you're going to need to fold all of these lines, all of these tabs, and then we're going to flip it over. I'm going to fold in both of these. We've got all of our little tabs here. And then there's this extra panel, and this is a little quirky. So let's start with the front. Here's the front with that piece of tape. This is going to go up and over like we're used to doing, right on the front. I'm going to glue all across here. Make sure you glue up your edges well. And up and over. There we go. And then I'm just going to check those corners, pushing them in and giving it a pinch. And use my bone folder to get that crease firmed up. And now we have these other tabs. So we didn't want to just glue them and have those tabs kind of floating there. I wanted to give you something to glue to. So I'm just going to put the glue on the inside of those tabs really quick. Just enough to stick to this. And I'm going to bring this little panel in and just stick it to it. So I've pushed this all the way down to the bottom of the box, and now those tabs are stuck there. And then we'll just fold this up and glue the back of the box here to sandwich those tabs in. I just wanted to make sure that these boxes were sturdy and we're going to hold up for you. There we go. And I'm going to give this a fold backwards. Got all my flaps folded, and now we're ready to fill the box. So this letter is going to fold in half, and then we need to fold it into thirds so it's going to fit into the package. You can use the package itself as a guide to where you want to fold. You have a little bit of wiggle room there, but you can kind of use the edge of this as a guide. I'm going to pop the letter down in there along with the apple slices and the chocolates. And close the lid. There we go. And that's everything for part 5. Waving goodbye to Marin and Brookstride, Renee and Woolsey continue on. There are still more packages to find. Their next stop is Starpath Lanternworks to speak to Leora and Glimmer. There are 4 pages in this project, 3 on cardstock and 1 on paper. The paper page is the one with the letter and the portrait of the woman with her puppy dog. Backer paper 3 needs to be printed on the back of the page with the package on it. That is the gold striped pattern. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked part 6. So we're going to move the package pieces to the side, the letter package, the bone treats, and the sweater, all of that off to the side, and we're going to work on the journal pages. The first thing we're going to work on is this piece here. We're just going to fold this into a flip. So we're going to fold along the line between the advertisement and this snowflake pattern, and then fold up this tab, making sure everything is nice and flat. I do have that ink along the edge, so just in case it shows, it will not be white. And I'm just going to glue these back to back really quickly. Some glue. There we go. And while we're doing that, I'm also going to grab this piece here. This is also going to fold in half. These tabs should line up, and we're going to glue these back to back as well. I'm going to get up into that tab area. There we go. Now on the back of this in the wreath, we're going to glue this lantern image. That's just going to go on there. So a little glue on the back of that. And then I'm going to flip over this flip, and this is where our image of the woman and the puppy dog goes, along with Woolsey's thoughts. Those are just going to center up as neatly as possible. So I'll pop the portrait on first, and then Woolsey's thoughts right underneath. Now we need to attach this flip to this little background card. So we're just going to layer them right one on top of the other, just like so, and then hook that tab over and glue it down. That striped panel doesn't have an up and down, so don't worry about which direction it's going. So now we have this, which flips open, and we're going to grab our journal and flip to the next blank page. There we go. So we should have a string down the middle. Our journal entry is going to go on the left-hand side, centered up on the page. Right there. And then our flip panel is going to glue on the right-hand side. Again, centered on the page. Be aware of where the edge of your page is, because it could be a little visually tricky here. And I'm going to glue all over that, and then making sure this is right side up, centering that on the page. I'm going to flip this open, and we have this little pocket here, this angled pocket with two tabs. Those two tabs are going to fold over, and then we'll get some glue on those, and this is going to glue in here as a little corner pocket tug. There's no glue on this edge here, just on the tabs. Here we go. And I'm going to line that up with the edges of that striped panel. And then once this is all dry, you can slide this card right down into this pocket and close the flip. You might need to give that a little extra crease just to firm things up. Let's slide that off to the side and work on our package. So we have a couple of fussy cuts here, the sweater and the box of bones. We're just going to glue those back to back. There we go. Little bone treats. And the sweater. And we're going to assemble our package. This one is pretty straightforward. So fold again on all of those creases like we have been on these boxes. We're going to take the front edge and we're going to fold that stripe panel over, and we're going to glue that down. And again, I know this is a little visually confusing on video, but I also firmly believe you are a pro at this by now. You've got it under control. So there is the front of the package. And then we're going to stand these up, bring those tabs in at a 90-degree angle. And then we're going to do our little up and over with these two sides. So glue on those panels. Up, over, little pinch, check the corners. There we go. And then the same thing on the other side. Corners. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And there we go. Now we have our letter. This letter is going to fold in half the tall way and then into thirds. You can use the side of the box to figure out exactly what size that needs to be. And then that goes down inside the box with the sweater and the little treats. We're going to pop that shut, and that's it for part 6. Leaving Leora and Glimmer behind, Renee and Woolsey head back out into the snow. Their search eventually brings them to Evergreen Park, where they run into Frederick and Merritt. Maybe they have seen a package. There are 4 pages in this project, 3 on cardstock, 1 on paper. The paper page is the one with the letter and the hot chocolate on it. Here we go. Backer paper 4 needs to be printed on the reverse side of the package paper. So this is the green print, and the package is actually in a couple of parts on that page. And then backer paper 5 needs to be printed on the reverse of the page with this pull out on it, because this is going to pull out and flip over. So we need to print on the reverse side of that. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, look for the ones marked part 7. So we'll start with our journal again. So the letter, the cranberries, the carrots, and the package pieces are all going off to the side. And let's go ahead and work on these journal pieces. So we have a few things we need to do. I'm going to start with this pullout, which is going to attach underneath this card with Frederick and Merritt on it. So that tab is just going to pop right underneath of here. So I'm just going to take the portrait, flip it over, and fold that tab over and glue it down. Just like that, so that we can have a nice pull-out image of the park. And I'm going to open this back up, and let's go ahead and do some decorating on it. So on the portrait of Frederick and Merritt, we're going to add this label that says Frederick Brookwell tends Evergreen Park with his companion Merritt. And that is just going to go right there. So I'll put a little glue on the back and pop that into place. Next on this side, we have a label that says Frederick handles pathways, lantern posts, and practical upkeep. That's going to go at the top on this panel. So a little glue, oops, little glue here. My glue is getting a little sassy. There we go. So put that in place. And then right under that, we're going to put the round image of the swan ice sculpture. So put some glue there. And that's just going to go right like that. Going to flip this over. And we have a little bit to do on these 2 panels. I'm going to leave this open. Just move this to the side. Let's start with the hot cocoa. That's going to go here. And then there's a little description about the warming stations along the main path. That's going to go right below it. So I'll glue that on. And our hot cocoa. Like so. Try to straighten everything up. And then all the way over here on the tab, we're going to add this little reindeer embellishment to the tab. And we're going to finish this off by adding this piece as a tuck. So we're going to glue this on 3 sides, the top, right, and bottom. This piece can go either way, whichever you prefer. It doesn't matter. But you want the opening to be to the left. And I'm just going to put a very thin line of glue all around those edges. So top, right, and bottom. And then I'm going to go not quite all the way to this fold here. I'm going to leave a little room. And I'm going to center it top and bottom. Let's slide this to the side for a moment and grab our journal and open to the next available page. So on the left-hand side, we're going to add that journal entry in. Some glue around the edges and then some quick little squiggle around the middle. And I'll just glue that in here on the left. And then on the right-hand side, that's where our pullout is going to go. And I just realized I did not tell you how to fold this. I don't think, maybe I did. The tab is under there. This is going to pull out like this. So as long as you fold along those lines, hopefully you saw the lines and you're like, oh, I need to fold there. Obviously, it's not really too late. You could still do those folds even if you haven't. But this is going to end up sitting like this in the journal. So you'll want to fold this all the way up. We're going to glue that in on the right-hand page. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and I miss small details. Fortunately, that one was not too late. And there we go, right into the journal. And once this pocket is dry, we can add our little tags in. There's a little ice sculpture of a winged cat, which is appropriate for our story, and then Woolsey's thoughts. Those are both going to go in there. And that's it for the journal entry. I'm going to put this to the side. And let's work on the package. So we have our letter, which will fold at the end. We've got a couple of jars of cranberry. We're just going to glue those back to back. There we go. And then our special carrots, those are going to fold in half and then glue as well. And now let's assemble the box, which I know is a little nutty, but I wanted to make like a tall, deep box, and this was the best way to do it and get it to fit on the page. So the first thing we need to do is crease everything. Almost jumped ahead again. So you're going to want to crease on all of these lines on the whole thing. And make sure you have your little extra panel. This panel is going to go with the trees sideways. And we're just going to attach it to this tab here, right on the inside. So we're going to turn the trees sideways. And then we're going to glue this tab right over that little panel. So glue on there. And the print is actually on both sides. I'm realizing that now because it was on the same page. So it can go upright. Oh goodness, it's been a day. There we go. So we now have that centered up, attached properly. And then we're going to glue this one to the back of it so that we end up with this shape. The shape would not fit, or a variation thereof would not fit onto the paper. So we're going to make it the hard way. And I'm just going to put glue on the panel. It's just like the one we did with the red inside. I'm gluing on this back panel, not on the tabs, not on the lid. And then I'm just going to attach it so it hides that tab. It is not the prettiest, but it will get the job done. So I'm going to stand it up, make sure everything is folding properly and lined up properly. It looks good. And now we're going to do what we usually do. So we have our couple of tabs here. Those are going to fold in. We're going to stand this up. And then we've got these tall, long sides that are going to wrap up and over and tuck inside. So we're going to glue all up these long wings. I'm going to stand this up. I've got my tabs in at that 90 degrees, up and over. Pushing that in. And then I'm going to stand this up and get my bone folder in there. And then same thing on the other side. Scrabble, scrabble. Up and over. And then checking those tabs, making those corners nice. And now we have this fun tall box so that we have some variety. So now we need to put our letter in. This one, we're going to fold it in half the tall way, and I am going to do thirds. The thirds need to fit here. You don't want to do it for here. This is narrow. It kind of fits. It's going to go in at a little bit of an angle, honestly. I'm just going to drop that in like that. And then add our carrots and our jam. And then we've got our two little side. This one is a little trickier to close because of that long front flap, but that keeps the lid from kind of caving in whenever these are shut. And there we go. And now we're all finished with part 7. With the ice swan repaired and another package and a hot chocolate in hand, Renee and Woolsey decide to search a little longer. Hopefully the other couriers from Whisker Wind Post are having as much success as they are. Their next stop, Petal and Stem, a florist. There are 4 pages in this project, 3 on cardstock, 1 on paper. The paper page is the one with the letter and the labels on it. And backer paper 5 needs to be printed on the reverse side of the page with the package on it. So that's that snowflake pattern on the reverse side. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 8. So let's put those package pieces to the side. We've got the letter, the package, the tea tin, and the nut mix. So those can go to the side, and I'm going to bring my journal over. Let's go ahead and flip to the next blank page. And we're going to start in here first. So we have a couple of panels. We've got a blank panel as well as our journal entry panel. So those are going to go on the left for the journal panel and the blank panel on the right. Just grab my glue and get these glued in, centered on each of their pages. Here we go. And then the same thing for this one. And then we have a couple of things to glue onto this blank page. The first thing we're going to do is this top tuck piece. This is just going to glue in all the way at the top of the page, and it is going to fill the page left to right. So you can see it's going to overlap, go beyond this edges of this background. So there's not really up and down on this. You can pick whichever direction you like. And you're going to glue 3 sides, top, right, and left with a thin line of glue. And then just pop that in on the page, being careful not to get it over onto the back of the page, back of the journal. I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to do a little fold check just in case, and that looks fine. It didn't push it out, so everything should be good there. And then down here at the bottom is where Woolsey's thoughts are going to go in. So a little glue on the back of that. And then one more thing at the top here, we have Talia Greenwick runs Petal and Stem. That's going to go right here on our tug. There we go, like so. And now this can go to the side to dry. And let's work on our ephemera. So we have this card here, we're just going to fold in half and then glue back to back. And then on the back side of this, where we see Pepin the mouse, we're going to put our other little label here. Pepin can sense whenever a plant needs attention. So that is going to go right there. And then this card with Talia and Pepin on it, we're just going to fold in half as well and glue back to back. Give that a smooth. And then the floral arrangement is going to go in this blank spot on the back of the card. Once everything is dry, you can bring your journal back, and we're just going to stack these however you like. I like the add up and then the portrait of Talia and Pepin, and then that's just going to slide right up under our top tuck. You might need to do them one at a time. And if you have trouble getting a hold of that, you can always grab your bone folder and give that a little lift. You can use your scissors as well, just to be able to get under there. And there we go. Now everything should slide right up underneath there. And that's it for the journal. So let's bring the package over. This one is very straightforward. We've got the round cuts with the round cut. So glue these back to back for the nut mix. This kind of has a right side up. The little sprig, I think, is up. So you can kind of mess with that, but I don't think it's super important to have the directionality of the label on the bottom the same as the bow on the top. And this is a circle. So, and then we have our winter tea blend, and those are just going to glue back to back. Like so. Squish my glue around a little bit. We'll do the letter in a moment, and let's put our package together. So again, folding on all of those lines, and then we're going to start with the front of the package and glue that down to the inside to add that extra support so this will hold up a little better. And then folding all of our tabs in, standing up, and then we're going to do the up and over with these two sides. There we go. Up and over, check those corners, pinch, pinch, pinch. And then firm that up. And there we go. Last one. Checking the corners, pinching, and pressing that down. Now we have our box together. This letter is just going to fold in half and then half again. Easy peasy. Pop that down in there with our winter tea and the nut mix and seal up the package. There we go. And that is it for part 8. After picking up their 5th package from Petal and Stem, Renee and Woolsey decide to head back to Whiskerwind Post to see if all of the packages have been found yet. There are only 2 pages in this project, both on cardstock with no backer papers. And if you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 9. So we've reached the end of our journal, and this is going to be our last entry. We have 2 panels here, and these panels need to be folded so that they can pull out on both sides at the end of the journal. So I'm going to pop this open here. So we have the one with the paw prints on it first. That one's going to go on the left-hand side. And there are a couple of things to go on here. We've got the Whisker Wind post, the front of the shop. So I'm just going to glue that on here. And I've gotten ahead of myself again, which seems to be a trend. I apologize for that. So this one has a fold that goes here. And I have inked across that edge because you might see that a little bit after this is glued in. And then you're going to fold here, and this is going to glue back to back to make a little flip open. So again, that is inked, and you want to make sure that you have no overhang here. You should not see that edge of that front panel on that side at all. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that back to back now, since we're talking about it. I filmed these all in one day, so I wanted to get this done for you guys in time for Black Friday as a little surprise. And also, I'm a little worried I'm coming down with something, so I wanted to get this all done now. So before I maybe get sick, then I can just be editing video instead of trying to talk to you all on camera if I'm feeling unwell. So there is that. And then inside here, I'm just going to pop in this little stack of packages. That's going to go right above those cute paw prints. I have a swirl of glue. Put that in right there. And then once that's dry, this entire thing is going to glue in on the left-hand page. This will flip open. We have our journal entry and our cute paw prints for Woolsey. A little bit of glue here. Make sure we glue that in well and center it on the page. Now let's do the other one. This one will open in the other direction. So we're going to need to fold this over this way. Our ink is along this crease. And then where these postage marks are at the top, that is going to fold back and glue to the back of this stamp, this kind of stamp frame page. Again, make sure that you can't see the edge of that from the other side. If you can, trim it or adjust your fold and then glue that down to the back. There we go. And since we're on this side, we have this great little montage of all of the cats of Whisker Wind posts. So we're going to glue that down here. So your Woolsey is in there, whoever you chose to be Woolsey, and then all the other cats that are working this day. And I use working loosely. They do help a lot. They deliver the mail in town. They do little jobs in the post office, but at any time they need a little nap, they are free to do so because they're cats. And cats need naps. Here we have Woolsey's thoughts and our stack of mail. That's the last thing we're going to put in here. Oops. Pop that in there. Might raise that up just a little. And then put that stack of mail right above it. There we go. And finally, this is going to glue in right here. We're going to center it in that stamp frame so we can see the frame around the edges. Just pop that into place on the back cover. And we have finished our journal. And our story has come to an end, and we're ready to put everything in the box. If you were crafting this over time, I'm guessing you used the box to hold everything in between your projects. So I've got my 5 packages here and the bottom of my box, and here is my lid for the holiday mail mishap. The journal is just going to sit in on one side, and you can see there is a lot of room in here. You can add more things, little bits and bobs, whatever you like. There's also room to add a nice big tie onto this journal if you have some ribbon or something like that that you want to add onto the journal. You have plenty of room to do that. And then there's lots of room for these packages to fit in, right like that. And with that, the holiday mail mishap has come to an end. If you'd like to stay up to date on all of my latest projects, then give this channel a like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this project, then be sure to check out my Etsy shop for more projects like this one. Frostbound Forest tells the story from the point of view of a researcher in a magical forest. When snow begins to fall in the late summer months, our main character heads out into the forest to investigate the cause. You get to follow along and see what they find on their snowy woodland adventure. Cursed Antiquities and the Umbral Society are a two-part investigation series told by Agent Hale of the Bureau of Esoteric Affairs. You assemble the case files and find out what is happening in a 1920s town with a touch of magic. Cursed Antiquities has 14 different projects with tons of storytelling, and the Umbral Society has a little twist with junk journal pages inside of the file folders and our villain's point of view hidden under a secret bottom in the box. Brightwand Academy and Willow of Whispers are a magic school theme. Explore the school in the Brightwand Academy box set. You can check out the classes and decide what the faculty and students look like. Then build a story in Willow of Whispers where we follow three friends who are noticing that something strange is happening on the school campus. And finally, explore a flying steampunk marketplace in Gilded Gear Marketplace. This box kit holds folios depicting 3 different shops as well as a cast of characters. Mix and match character backgrounds and portraits and store them in the included cases. Then check out Steam and Satin, a story junk journal kit about the marketplace's tailor shop. A missing shipment of supplies before an important event has Master Tailor Nathaniel Alden looking for answers. I hope today's project added a touch of magic to your life and that you'll craft with me again soon.